Just before 3 a.m., a man rushes inside as a SWAT team.
In the early hours of a quiet morning, just before 3 a.m., a dramatic scene unfolded in an unsuspecting neighborhood. A man rushed into a grand mansion as the screeching tires of an armored SWAT vehicle shattered the silence. The tactical team wasted no time, deploying a battering ram to bust through the front door of Whoopi Goldberg's sprawling estate. The sudden chaos pierced through the stillness of the night with headlights from a convoy of black SUVs illuminating the street. Neighbors, roused from their slumber, likely peered through curtains in disbelief as federal agents in full tactical gear descended on the property. The operation was swift and precise. Within moments, agents had fanned out across the grounds, establishing a perimeter while others moved toward the entrance. The doorbell rang, an oddly polite gesture given the circumstances, and Whoopi herself answered. What stood out immediately was her demeanor. She didn't appear shocked or panicked. Instead, she exuded an eerie calm, as though she had been expecting this moment. An agent at the forefront presented his badge, his voice firm as he announced, "We have a search warrant. This is a federal investigation." For a brief moment, Whoopi's expression flickered. There was a hint of understanding, perhaps even resignation, but also a trace of confusion. She didn't ask why they were there, which only deepened the intrigue. It was almost as if she had an inkling of what this might be about, though the full scope of it seemed to elude her. Her composure held steady as the agents began their search, methodically tearing through the mansion. Drawers were pulled open, cushions flipped, paintings lifted off walls, nothing was left untouched. Whoopi stood off to the side, observing in near silence. If she was afraid, she hid it well. Her face betrayed little beyond the occasional flicker of thought, as though she were piecing something together in her mind. The search continued without incident until the team made their way downstairs to the basement. That's when the mood shifted. In the dimly lit basement, an agent's attention was drawn to a bookshelf. At first glance, it appeared unremarkable, a standard piece of furniture in an otherwise ordinary room. But something about it caught his eye. With a bit of effort, the agents pushed the shelf aside, revealing a hidden panel in the wall. A faint outline suggested a door, and after some maneuvering, they uncovered a small, concealed compartment. Inside was a metal box, nondescript but heavy. The discovery sent a ripple of tension through the team. Whatever was inside, it was significant enough that the agents didn't dare open it on the spot. Instead, they secured it, immediately calling for the head officer to oversee its removal. Whoopi, watching from a distance, spoke up for the first time since the search began. "I've never seen that before," she claimed, her voice steady, but her eyes telling a different story. It was hard to believe her. How could someone not know about a hidden compartment in their own home, especially one so cleverly tucked away? Speculation swirled in the aftermath of the raid. Some suggested this could simply be an effort by the FBI to retrieve records, but the secrecy surrounding the box hinted at something far more serious. The agents' urgency in transporting it to a lab only fueled the suspicion that they knew exactly what they were looking for. And so, the question lingered. What was inside that metal box? Details began to leak almost immediately after the box was opened in a secure facility. According to sources close to the investigation, its contents were nothing short of explosive. The box contained a stash of sensitive materials, photographs, documents, and financial records that painted a troubling picture. The images weren't ordinary snapshots. They depicted high-profile celebrities and politicians in compromising, private moments. These weren't the kind of photos anyone would want to see the light of day. Alongside the images were paper trails linking certain individuals to offshore bank accounts and suspicious financial dealings. The transactions appeared to involve organizations previously flagged for illicit activity, with money moving through underground networks in ways that raised immediate red flags. Perhaps most chilling was the discovery of a separate notebook containing a long list of names, big names, recognizable to anyone familiar with Hollywood or Washington circles. The connections were shocking enough to make even seasoned investigators pause. Why would Whoopi have access to such information? Whispers soon emerged of ties to an illegal human transportation ring operating within Hollywood's elite circles. Some of the organizations linked to the financial records had been investigated before for involvement in such activities, and the presence of their names in Whoopi's basement only deepened the mystery. The public reaction was swift and unforgiving. Online forums buzzed with questions. If Whoopi was innocent, why would this kind of material be hidden in her home? The images, the financial records, the list of names, it wasn't the sort of thing one simply stumbled upon or inherited by accident. Theories began to circulate, ranging from plausible to outlandish. Some speculated that Whoopi might have been collecting dirt on Hollywood elites as leverage, while others wondered if this was an attempt to silence her before she could expose something even bigger. But the FBI doesn't conduct raids on rumors alone. Their decision to storm her mansion in the dead of night suggested they had concrete evidence that likely pointed to something far more significant than idle gossip. Whoopi didn't stay silent for long. Just days after the raid, she appeared on The View, her usual platform to address the growing storm. Sitting at the table with her co-hosts, she opened the show with a direct statement, "I know what you've heard, but I have nothing to hide." Her tone was firm, defiant even, as she called the raid unjustified and insisted the FBI had made a mistake. She claimed the safe and its contents didn't belong to her, that she had no idea how they ended up in her basement. She even floated the possibility that someone had planted the evidence to frame her, a convenient defense, but one that didn't sit well with many observers. Her lawyer followed up with a formal statement asserting that Whoopi denied any involvement and had cooperated fully with the authorities. They expected her to be cleared of all wrongdoing. But words alone couldn't erase the evidence piling up against her. Saying you're innocent doesn't make it so, especially when a metal box full of incriminating material suggests otherwise. The FBI remained tight-lipped, offering no official statement beyond confirming that the raid was part of a larger probe. Sources within the investigation hinted that this was only the beginning, that the contents of the box were merely the tip of the iceberg in a sprawling case with far-reaching implications. As the days passed, the investigation intensified, and the leaks grew more explosive. Reports began to surface tying some of the names in the notebook to notorious figures like Jeffrey Epstein and Sean Diddy Combs, both of whom had been convicted for their roles in illegal operations. The fact that their names appeared alongside Whoopi's financial records raised eyebrows. Even more troubling were the connections to major political figures, senators, lobbyists, and former White House officials whose names were linked to the same offshore accounts. The question on everyone's mind was simple: why would a Hollywood celebrity have financial ties to such a wide array of influential people, especially those involved in questionable dealings? The financial records uncovered another layer of complexity. Large sums of money had allegedly been funneled through shell companies registered under Whoopi's business empire, with some of those funds ending up in the hands of organizations known for money laundering. Whoopi's legal team was quick to push back, claiming she had no knowledge of these transactions. They pointed the finger at her business managers, insisting she was in the dark about where the money was going. But that explanation didn't sit well with many. How could someone of her stature not know that millions of dollars were flowing through offshore accounts tied to criminal activity? It was a stretch, and the public wasn't buying it. The plot thickened when one of Whoopi's closest business partners was arrested in connection with the case. The FBI alleged that this partner had been running a sophisticated human transportation ring, using business accounts to launder money and cover up illegal activities. Some of those accounts were directly linked to Whoopi's financial records, raising even more questions about her involvement. It was possible, as her team claimed, that her money had been funneled into these operations without her knowledge. After all, the partner had been in charge of handling some of her business ventures. But the fact that her name was on those financial statements wasn't something she could easily distance herself from. The FBI eventually called Whoopi in for questioning, and she arrived flanked by her legal team. Her lawyers advised her to say as little as possible, offering only the bare minimum in response to the agent's inquiries. It was a clear attempt to shield her from incriminating herself, but it also suggested she had something to hide. The media, meanwhile, was relentless. Outlets began accusing her of being directly involved in the scandal, pointing to the mounting evidence as proof of her complicity. As the investigation continued to unfold, the biggest question remained unanswered. Did Whoopi know the truth? If her business partner was indeed running an illegal operation and using her money to fund it, that wasn't something she could easily dismiss. The evidence suggested a level of involvement that went beyond mere ignorance, and the public was growing increasingly skeptical of her claims. With other high-profile names tied to the case and more details emerging by the day, the scandal showed no signs of slowing down. What had started as a late-night raid on a celebrity's mansion had spiraled into a sprawling investigation with the potential to shake Hollywood and beyond to their core. Only time would reveal the full extent of Whoopi's role, if any, in the dark web of secrets uncovered in her basement.